Right, this is Montevideo. Montevideo is 50 pointer. It's kind of similar to Whitehorse, but not quite. Um, yeah, so let's actually look at the code for a minute before we look at any further hints. So main again called login. You guys should be familiar with this by now. You see a lot of very familiar stuff. You see the get sn again, but then you see these two new functions. You also see conditional unlock door. Actually, let's look at that first before we come here. Conditional lock door. There you go. See that, and that looks very similar to what you saw in Whitehorse again. You see the same kind of instructions there. But you inside login before you see conditional unlock door, you see these two calls to string copy and memset here. Now, actually, let's quickly run the program. It's going to break at some point of time, and let's just enter any kind of input here. So you enter anything here, and so some point of time it's going to break its string copy. So now you need to find out what string copy does, and you need to find out what memset does. This is all classic reversing. Now, a quick tip at this point of time, if you are just getting started with reversing and stuff, you always step over a function before you step into it. In other words, try and understand at a very high level what string copy does before you go deep into string copy and start disassembling every single instruction and learning everything about it. Same thing with memset. Once you understand at a high level that string copy, which basically copies a string from one address to another address, find out what those addresses are, find out what data is going from where to where. And once you've done that, at that point of time, and you maybe that's all you need. Maybe all you need to know is that it's copying string from one address to another address, and you don't need to know how exactly it's doing it. So at that point of time, you have to take a decision that, hey, I know enough. I'm not going to disassemble string copy any further. It's the same thing with memset. Memset basically sets a bunch of addresses, a bunch of locations to a certain value. So maybe that's all you need to know. If you need to know more at that point of time, so for example, if I needed to know more about string copy, at that point of time I would say S here. See this S over here? See S here, and then I'd go into string copy, and then I'd keep S'ing my way over each and every instruction at this point of time. But if I don't need to know that, all I need to know is say F, and I'll come immediately out of string copy. So which basically means I step over the string copy. I'm not worried about what's inside. I'm just worried with the flow of the program. It's calling string copy, copying a string, doing memset, setting something, and then calling conditional unlock door. That's all I'm bothered about. So that's kind of important with reversing in general. So right. So once we have done that, what does string copy do, in the sense that we discussed that, but what significance does it have in exploitation as such? So I would go back to Google again, Google up string copy buffer overflow, and start reading about what significance string copy has inside a buffer overflow and how you would tackle a problem which has a string copy inside it. Does that affect your payload in any way? If yes, how? What ways around it? Generally, forget this particular microcorruption game. Generally in string copy, and the principle is the same. So once you understand what it's doing there, you'll get what it's doing here, and you'll be able to proceed further. It's the same deal with memset. Look at your input. Look at the arguments for each function. So for example, you look at the arguments for memset. You see these are the arguments to the function. You see this 2400 R15, and you see a move here. So basically the arguments for memset are in R15 and R13. So if you say step here, for example, so we're on the move 64 R13 instruction. You look at R13 closely. So we'll actually do something like track R13, and the moment we say yes and it goes forward, you see the value of R13. Has R13 come in here anywhere? No, it's not here. So it's not an address inside here, but you look at the value of R13 here, it's basically 64, right? So 0x64, it converts it to decimal 100 obviously, and R15 has 2400 right here, and you do that again, and you see 2400 over here, changes here. So those are the arguments, and that's going into memset, and memset's doing something with it. So if we step over the memset call, and then you look at 2400, and then you look at what 2400 does. For example, it's putting a lot of zeros in there. Why is it put a lot of zeros in there? Yeah, just go and figure that out for yourself. See, look at memory, look at your input, think of how you install the white horse, understand string copy, memset, do all of that, and you should be good enough for Montevideo. It's pretty similar to white horse, just a tiny little twist right there. Good luck.